Good morning, and it's Lilia from Heal Scotland and Scotland's Wild Medicine. And this morning, I'm very excited to have Graeme Richardson with me because Graeme is a podcaster, a load of other things, but also a Wim Hof instructor. So we had such an amazing time at last year's festival with the Wim Hof instructor. So I'm delighted you're going to be there again. Thank you so much for taking
Oh,
time out this morning and for coming to the festival.
thank you. Thanks very much. It's a nice change to be being asked the questions and not asking them.
Well, I did a podcast with you, and it was such a fun thing to do, and it was so
Yeah.
thought provoking as well because, again, I don't think we sit down and think about these things. Just let's talk briefly about your podcast. You ask people, is it the three favourite tunes?
Yeah, I mean, 3, 4, or 5 sort of,
Uh-huh.
and it's not favorite. That what we do is I ask them. It's 3, 4, or 5 songs that have like played a big part or had a real impact on their life. So it doesn't even have to be favorite tunes. And then that's the thing, like you said, it just gets people thinking about songs that were part of their life when, kind of major sort of, big things or life-changing events were kind of going on.
Yes.
So it gets people thinking, but it also you just don't know where it's going to take the conversation, which I love.
Yeah. It's such a clever idea. Which is let's not. I don't want to take up time talking about the podcast, but people can find you anyway and listen to that
Oh
format,
yeah.
which is highly entertaining. But let's talk about. You're just back. First of all, you're just back from the Wim Hof reunion.
Oh yeah.
So tell us about that.
Oh my Lord. So I think it was quite special for me because I qualified as an instructor in 2022 in the summer, and the last instructor reunion was like 3 months later. It was in September,
Mhm.
and I wasn't able to go just because of timings. I'd been away, and I had seen all the pictures of people that were on my kind of like master module out there enjoying the reunion. So I had major FOMO from from that, and I had said, but the way that I kind of made myself feel better about not being there at the time was, listen, your time will come. There will be another reunion. As it turned out, there wasn't one in 2023, but the reunion they had this year, 2024, it was very different to the last one because it was much bigger. There was
Yes.
about 250 instructors.
Wow.
It was in Poland. The hotel was crazy big, and it was in the same location, and it was just on the back of the winter travel. So they'd
Uh-huh.
had about 450 people out in Vorkov. I'm not really sure how to say it. Uh, but they had about 450 people on the winter travel, and then that finished, and then we had the reunion. So it was amazing to see and meet so many more Wim Hof instructors. And there was, do you know what? As much as getting to be in the same room and share that energy with Wim himself for the first time
Uh-huh.
was amazing. The energy with like 250 people breathing in the same, we did this on a slightly smaller scale last year, and we'll do it again next month with
Yeah.
Heal Scotland.
Uh-huh.
But the energy was just like nothing that I've ever experienced before. And listening to Wim talk as well, he's always, regardless of kind of whatever's going on in his life, his energy that he brings to people when he talks to share his message is just unbelievable. And feeling that and being there was crazy. So he did 2 breathwork sessions with us.
Uh-huh.
But some of the other things that happened over the weekend, like call them messages from the universe or just coincidences, were brilliant as well. So being around like-minded people, networking as well, understanding how other Wim Hof instructors do what they do and how
Yes.
they, spread the message with their workshops and retreats and stuff was fantastic. So I came home just buzzing.
fantastic. It was just perfect timing because you guys are now coming to the festival to bring that energy to Scotland. Because I think there's a few things you said there. I think Wim Hof, I met him down in London, at Community, the Russell Brands Festival. I mean,
Yeah,
what a man. He's a leader. But I think the big thing about him is, regardless of whether you enjoy the Wim Hof breathing or not, which I think is completely irrelevant, he's done the world a massive, massive favour by bringing the breath work out to normal people in the streets that can now understand. But also he is capable of doing things that he absolutely knows we're capable of doing.
yeah,
The power of our mind, and he's doing is saying, wake up to the power that you've got inside. And he does it quite unlike anybody else that I've ever met. He's just vibrating on that level.
mm,
And I got into a wee bit of a fight in YouTube the other day when people are trying to kind of almost bring the method down, or that this is a better way to do it, and you're like, there's different ways to do everything. This man he is proven what the human body is capable of way more. What monks have been doing for centuries, obviously. But
yeah,
he's westernized it and he's brought it out to the masses. And you can't be anything but hugely, hugely grateful. Well, I am to him for that. And you know that he doesn't care about money, doesn't care. He just wants to tell you, he wants to inspire you. And
yeah,
yes, there's a business model around it, but let's face it, we still all have to pay the bills. So it's a phenomenal, phenomenal setup and simple. The fundamentals is such a brilliant way to let people experience that feeling of, I don't know, connection and bliss that you can get from
mm,
doing this breath work. I love it. Absolutely love it.
yeah.
Still one of my favourites.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed my life, and and that's why I do what I do, because it made such a difference in at a period in my life when I kind of needed something, needed saving maybe, and it kind of and it did that, and it's like you said there, simple. It really is simple. That the three pillars, and we talk about a fourth pillar as well now, but the three pillars, every aspect of it is super simple. That deliberate cold exposure, breath work, and for me, it's talked about as the third pillar. I usually in my workshops talk about it, and this is me. This is me. It's a pillar, but for me, without the third pillar, which is commitment and mindset, you don't get the other two. Because if you don't decide that you're going to make changes in your life and do something different, then you won't ever go into the cold. You won't ever, undertake conscious breath work and see what, oxygenizing, that you're getting into that, all of that will do for you if you don't have the commitment. And
And
that's
the
the
mindset,
most
even
important
try
thing
it.
for me. Yeah, is just try it, because it's like you said, it is super simple. For anybody I mean, we live in Scotland, and I know that a lot of people, in terms of the cold exposure, we live in Scotland, so you don't need to pay for that. Everybody lives, within half an hour of, like, or even closer, usually within, flowing water. Yeah. So that aspect of it is readily available. And in terms of the breath work, the Wim Hof method, there's an app where you can do all of the basic exercises for free. And it's just that third pillar. That's the thing you have to pay for, but you don't need to pay in money. You need
Yes.
to pay in time. You need to pay in effort. You need to pay in discipline and structure.
Yeah.
Those things that if you don't kind of, the way I put it is, if you don't push yourself out your own comfort zone, if you don't seek discomfort, then discomfort will find you. So
And I think the other thing that you said there, because obviously as a hairdresser, we used to go to Salon International in London every year to get re-inspired, to meet all the other hairdressers, to get their stories and just get a little idea. Yeah. And then you come back kind of reignited, lighter and more enthusiastic, clearly exactly the way that you have done.
yeah,
And that's what happened in Tarbert. I mean, obviously from the Heal Scotland perspective, we like to teach people things that everybody can do. So they're free, you can do it in your house. And as you say, you can get the app, but there's nothing more powerful than doing it as a group. I love that. I mean,
Nothing.
last year, everybody's still talking about it. I can see
Mm.
some of the same people coming back. And, I really encourage people that have never tried it to please come along and even just try the breath work if you don't want to get cold. You'll be furious like me that you've wasted so much of your life not knowing about this phenomenal way to breathe.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's one of the few things. Trying to get humans to pull together and do things together can be a challenge, because everybody wants to be awkward. Everybody wants to be a hero, a superhero. But what was beautiful about that, seeing all you guys in your kilts, and just, getting every day, it was just simply magical. And then seeing everybody going into the sea. I mean, it's really, the reporter from, I think he was Open Times, he said it was biblical to watch. I mean, what, you can't really get much better than that.
Only people like Liam Gallagher use that word.
You can see him.
It was though. I mean, it was, and that do you know what? I didn't actually go in the sea because obviously from a safety perspective, which is one of the biggest and most important parts of what we do and why we have to go through the training that we do, because the safety of our participants is paramount. So last year I put my hand up. I said, I'll not go in the sea. So I will be going in this year. I didn't go in the sea. And the idea there is that from the shore, we can watch and make sure that, what you can't see from in the water, that is, if anybody's struggling in any way. But there wasn't. And what I saw from the shore was biblical. Groups.
Well, that picture of you, you can see you. In fact, it might even be on the.
It's on the flyer.
Yeah, it's
I was well chuffed. I thought, look at me. I'm on the flyer for this year's Wild Medicine Festival.
Yeah. So we're going to have a chat. I think it's tomorrow night, is it? Then or tonight even.
Tonight, 8 o'clock.
Tonight.
Yeah.
Yes. So because obviously we can have ice baths there for people that not everybody likes the big group thing. So you guys are going to be around for the weekend. People can come and chat to you.
Yeah.
People can come and experience a private session if they want to. We need to look at having an actual fundamental so that people can come and experience it in a more intimate type setting.
Yeah.
But also, I think being able to talk. Let's talk about the testimonies. I know down at Community, this woman that was there, her son had been introduced to the method. Now, don't quote me here because I can't, but he was quite young. He was like maybe 12. And the healing that he'd had, can you talk about a few of the testimonies and conditions that people, we know anxiety and depression, right?
Yeah.
But can you talk about a few of the things that people have seen improve? So that if anybody listening to this is suffering from any of these conditions, I know that John Watt, who was the guy that went head to head with Rishi Sunak in Question Time, because he has been very badly vaccine damaged, and he actually said on his interview with Dr. John Campbell that the Wim Hof method had really helped him.
Yeah.
So can you talk up to that about what you've seen and what you've heard people?
So, I mean, I've spoken to a number of people who have right down, like you say, anxiety at one end of the spectrum, and not taking anything away from, how things can debilitate people. But in terms of things that you would not consider, I spoke to a Wim Hof instructor, or met a Wim Hof instructor at the reunion just recently, who was diagnosed with cancer, and that person through, and again, this is not to suggest that if you do the Wim Hof method, you will, it's not. We're talking about extremes, and we're talking about people that have used this method when they have undertaken other aspects of more traditional, the sort of pharmaceutical route, taken a load of medicine that's just not worked for them, and then they've taken a more holistic approach which includes and has included the Wim Hof method. So including the breath work as part of a daily practice, along with the cold exposure and a lot of what Heal Scotland stands for as well. You know, actually like feeding your body, you know, more nutritious food, understanding what food can do for you, understanding, you know, what and when you eat, and what you put in here, but also what you put in here. So understanding how you consume, in general. So, you know, that this person, it was part of a more holistic approach, but at the end of the day, you know, the net result was the same. They had cancer, and then and it cleared up, and hadn't returned. That's one. I was speaking to a fellow Wim Hof instructor who was telling me a fascinating story about a chap that I had met. I had literally only met him for about 5 minutes at the end of the reunion, and I was telling my pal about this chap, and he said, "You do know his story." He said he arrived at a winter travel, in a wheelchair, and really struggled to walk. And after a week of being at that winter travel, he was in an ice bath and came out and doing like 15 minutes horse dance and like full of energy, and walking, as if, you know, he had never had an injury in his life. And so those are some like very sort of physical things, but other things as well. So like tapping deeper, and this is so like sort of like stored past childhood trauma. You know, there's a much deeper level that you can tap into, with this method, where it's not the breath work can, you know, it, so you're alkalizing the blood, and with that reducing acidity, which helps to reduce inflammation. So in actual fact, the inflammation in the body, it's responsible for so many autoimmune diseases. So if it's an autoimmune disease, then this method can help, and going deeper into the things that the body stores, that we you know might go about our day-to-day lives and not truly understand those aspects of how we behave, and who the labels that we give ourselves, that
Yes.
sort of self-deprecating, self-talk, all of that stuff coming from things that we've experienced in the past. You know, to quote a wise woman that I know, it helps you let it go.
Well, this is the thing, and I know because I ran a 3-month community, at Barmolach Farm, and there
Yeah,
was a few of us that went in. We did breath work every single day, and not everybody, but a few of us went in the river every single day from, it was maybe not midwinter, but for the 1st of April
hmm,
we started, through to the end of June. And as you know, the water in Scotland never really gets that warm. And so, as part of that holistic package, we saw all sorts of disease. One girl that was recovering from a stroke that could hardly walk. So, I've seen that with my own two eyes. It's interesting because I was thinking about this morning. You know, most people can accept that if you were to go to the gym 3 times a week for the next 3 months and to eat at the right times, the right quantity of macronutrients, that
yeah,
your body will significantly change.
yeah,
We know that, right? We absolutely know that. So why do you not think the body would respond to healing protocols? Why do people not believe that they can heal? It astounds me. Or is it just convenient? Because if you knew that you could be better, feel better, like that man in the wheelchair, fair play to him for going there. You
yeah,
know, most people, you can hide away and just get sicker and sicker and sicker, rather than, is it too difficult to believe? Because if you believe, then you're going to have to take action,
yeah,
change. And, you know, I think now as the NHS crumbles in front of our very eyes, and, you know, I've got quite a, let's say, more mature clientele at the salon. Everybody I'm talking to now is, you know, is complaining about either not getting to see a doctor or being treated not very nicely by somebody. And you're just like, what's this going to be like in 5 years? And if we do not have that service on tap, how are we going to manage that?
Yeah. There's two things for me here. I think that one is the way in which we've been, and I use the word loosely. I work in technology in my day job, so apologies for any sort of tech references, but we've been programmed from the day we were born into the environment. You know, our parents have brought us up in the best way that they possibly can. But we've been programmed to think in a particular way when it comes to health. And that includes, in today's society, you get ill, you go see the doctor, you get a pill. It's that simple. And I think the second thing is that as part of that, it's easy to do that. It's easy to go and just allay all of your problems onto someone else and then be given some medication. It's much easier to do that than it is to actually have a look holistically at your life and make some changes, because change isn't easy. And it's easy, and it's much easier to kind of, you know, try and get someone else to solve your problems by looking inside. And I know that, you know, particularly, if I can say one thing about the clientele that I witnessed at the Wild Medicine Festival, and the people that come along to my workshops, and the people that get this approach that we're trying to spread the word here, we need more men involved in this. And I know it's happening, but the people, I at the weekend, I said this to a friend. I said, you know what has helped me more than anything else over the last couple of years to sort of to shift and any of the sort of negativity and the things that I know that I should change in my life, it's been embracing some of the feminine energy that is required. And that, I mean, show me a man that will stand up and say that. We're far, you know, few and far between, because again, back to programming, men need to be strong, men need to be men, and men don't talk about stuff. So it's been amazing for me to see all of these strong, you know, women willing to change. And I think that, you know, getting more guys involved and actually taking this approach of, do you know what? You can heal yourself. You can do it, but it means difficult work.
100% agree with you. And it was interesting this week because I was talking to Neil McEnroy about the economics. It was him that said to me, you will never heal Scotland without looking at the economics. You know, poor health and poor wealth are intrinsically linked. And when you take people out the poverty trap, their health increases alongside, right? So that's something we have to address. And Neil's going to be speaking at the festival. You probably met him last year, did you?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I listened. I'm pretty sure. I don't think I caught his talk, but yeah, we're talking about it over the weekend. So yeah,
because we've got a marquee out at Westloch Shores where you guys will be. So he'll be speaking there. So if you get a chance, because what we're looking at is like, how are we going to do this? We need to have an action plan. And he was talking about becoming an activist. And obviously what we're talking about is personal responsibility. But we have to look at the systems, because we need systems in order to, you know, keep us all so that we can share and move and shake. Because the corruption right now and the complete lack of care, they're just looking for other ways to take more money off the people so that they can pay for all the balls up that they've made over the last few years. And it's just like, no, you've poisoned the food chain, you've poisoned the water, you've poisoned our minds with fear. It's like, no, we're not having it anymore. We're living in one of the most beautiful land masses in the world. We've got the best food, brain food, available indigenous in our rivers, in our lochs, and in our forests. People come here from all over the UK for our mushrooms in Argyll. So we have it all here. But we just didn't see it. I didn't see it, you know. And now it's like, come on, this is a phenomenal opportunity. We've got the most beautiful wellness country, and one of them in the world. Why? We need to shift our mindset. So if we can really look at how we can play a part in that, because I know people ask me all the time, what can I do to help? And I'm like, share the events and come to the events and tell people about the events. That's one very practical thing that you can do. After that, what are we going to do at that more systemic level, where the corruption and the self-serving that has to all crumble away. But in order for that to crumble away, we need to stand up and be willing, so there's always there's the good side, and then there's the more difficult side. And the people that say to me, "Oh, I couldn't get cold," and I'm like, "Yeah, you could. You don't want to. But you absolutely could." And "Oh, I'm too old." No, you're not. It's absolutely not. You're not too old. You can do it yourself. It's funny because my aunt that I'm living with is 90. She said, "Oh, maybe we've just started getting her walking up the stairs again." And she's like, "Oh, maybe I'll be coming out to the loch with you." And I thought, she's got that kind of personality that absolutely, if she thought it would really help her, she'd try it.
Yeah.
Well, someday I'm currently hearing stage 4 cancer and winning. I feel best I've ever felt with no pharmaceutical. Yeah, fantastic for you. Let's have a chat about that. Because that's another thing, that we're going to. So I met, obviously, Neil, James Dawson, who set up the whole organic. He was a Wim Hof instructor, but he's moved into the organic food, set up a shop in Castlemilk. And John Angus from the Hebridean Inn, who's offered me the hotel for the winter as a pop-up healing centre. So there are men there that you're just like, yeah, I need men. I need good men around me, because that's going to encourage more men to come in. And this Heal Scotland thing, it's not about me. I've just got a big mouth, and I'll absolutely, shout about it. And I'm not worried what people are going to say. And I get attacked, okay, because I'm challenging the system and the status quo. But that's okay, because I used to believe that too. And if you're happy in that, sometimes I think ignorance is bliss. If you don't see what's going on, it must be a lot nicer. But the reality is, every single religious person or ethos across the world, spiritually, we know we're in a time of massive change. And this is when we're all waking up to the fact that we're not just a body, we're much, much more than that. And that we have a phenomenal power inside to heal innately. And that we can also choose how we leave this world in a much nicer way if we decide to leave. So
I could not agree more. Could not agree more. And it's similar to conversations I've been having about, like you say, when we leave, if we choose to leave. I love that, because I've been talking about, what I'm always thinking about. Right, well, what to do next. When the last trip that I was away down in Newquay was with ex-forces friends, and a lot of what I did, I started a project a few years ago called Force Forward, and it was all about reconnecting old ex-forces colleagues, but it was also about inspiring action. That very thing. It was about promoting and encouraging people to take action that was contributing towards their physical and mental well-being. And just perfect example of what you were saying, that people know what is good for them and what is not, but they choose. And there was a moment at the weekend. So we were in Newquay, so I had to do the sea dips. So I did sea dips both mornings that we were there. And there's a friend of mine that lives up Fort William way, who, when I started to share my story of going into the cold, she started doing this herself. So she was right up for coming into the sea. There was another chap who said, "I don't like the sea. I don't like the sea at all." He said, "But I'm coming in." He said, "Because I like a challenge."
Yes.
And so he came down and he came in, and then the second day he came in and he stayed in for longer. And on the second morning, there was another lady who used to be an old boss of mine, wonderful person. And we sat at the breakfast table, and everybody else was getting tucked into their crumpets. And I was looking around, and I said, "I'm just having a little cup of tea before we're going down." I said, "I'm not eating." Two reasons. One, going into the cold, best to not, just the way in which our body works, best to not be digesting food at the same time as you're going into the cold. I said, but also, once you come out of the cold and the adrenaline levels and the dopamine rush hits, it was like, you're going to enjoy that breakfast way much more. So there were people looking around, and my ex-boss from many years ago has inspired me through the years. She's sitting there going, I know I should come in today. And I just didn't say anything. And I said, well, I said the waves were pretty brutal yesterday. I said, and we got wiped out. And she just looked at me and she went, I'm getting my stuff, I'm coming. And so she came and she went in. And then when we got out and we were all doing the horse stance to warm up, there was smiles emerging on everybody's face. We did a great time in the sea. And I just said to her, I deliberately didn't try to encourage you because, you know, she had done an ice bath with us a year ago when we all met up in Linlithgow. And she had bought a pod for herself, but I think she's only used it once or twice. And I said, I didn't say anything to you because it needs to be your mind. So it's one thing doing this when there are other people around you, when you're part of it, that's great. But the way in which that, you know, you get most of your gains and most of your progress in life is what you do when nobody's watching. The stuff that you do behind closed doors when you're not doing it for the gram, you're not doing it for a sexy reel, but you're just doing it because you know that it's good for you. And that's the time when it's very easy to just Netflix and chill. And, you know, so that was a perfect example of like where, you know, I'm not, you know, I can hopefully inspire others by, you know, sharing my story and what I'm doing. But ultimately, I heard a great quote, because part of my frustration in this journey trying to help people, and you'll have experienced this yourself, is you know that, especially when you look around and you know that there are people that you can help, but they don't want it, or maybe they do, but they're afraid to ask for it. And that frustrated me, especially when I could see people that I knew needed help, and they were in their own way, you know, through their behaviors, you could see that they were crying out for help, but they weren't able to actually articulate that in the words, can you help? I need to change. It was all other things that were screaming out change and screaming out help, but they couldn't actually ask. And this quote from a French poet called Anne Nin that my meditation coach reminded me of is, you can't save everyone, you can only love them. And that's, I think, where I'm at now. And that's what makes, for me, like the Wild Medicine Festival and Heal Scotland so amazing, because you can get to connect with so many like-minded people and share and spread that love, and just be there. Like you've said, should anybody want to talk, we can share stories, but ultimately we can't do it for anyone else. You got to do it yourself.
Yes. And, you know, I heard, I think it was Tim Ferriss, he didn't come away with the saying, but he said, there's those who see, there's those who will see when shown, and there's those who will never see. And you have to accept that. And, you know, I used to have a salon in a 5-star hotel in Malta. And in the winter, a lot of older people came out there for the winter. And I used to lie in my sunbed in the Lido, and I'd think, I could have you walking, I could have you. And 1 week, because they had the most amazing spa there. We had vibration training, we had Talasso, we had de-weighted running machines. I mean, it was the phenomenal setup. And I was just like, God, you know, people just they just don't know, I think. They're capable of so much more.
Yeah.
But listen, we could stay here all talking about this. I can't wait to see you. And thanks again so much for your participation.
Listen, it's a pleasure being part of it. I'm really looking forward to Tarbert and to Skye.
Yes.
Really excited to be part of it.
Yeah. On both festivals on the Sunday, even if you're not coming to the festival, please come along and experience this for yourself. Come and talk to Scotland's amazing Wim Hof instructors. Find out what you can do and there's going to be loads of other people there. You will come away from these festivals with so much information and knowledge. You will not fail to be inspired to help yourselves. So I will see you in 3 weeks. 3 weeks in Friday. Awesome.
I'm excited.
Thanks a million, Graeme.
Thank you for having me, Lily. Lovely to speak to you as always, and look forward to seeing you next month.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks now. Brilliant. Ciao. If anybody's got any questions, you can pop them in the box and we can get to them after.